The following episode will contain spoilers. You have been warned.
You're listening to Cinema IRL, the podcast that throws you into the movie and asks the question, what would you do? Today, Amber and Scott discuss Night Bitch. Yep, Night Bitch. I said what I said. And now, Cinema IRL.
I wish I could switch places for just one day.
What would you do?
Put yourself in my shoes.
How do we handle this?
What would you do?
Put yourself in my position.
What would you do?
Now it's your turn.
Motherhood. Am I right? No, I don't know.
Yeah, this was definitely a tale of the trials and tribulations of motherhood, wasn't it?
Was it a T-A-L-E or a T-A-I-L?
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point. This episode, we are talking about
Night Bitch!
Night Bitch. A woman pauses her career to be a stay-at-home mom, but soon her domesticity takes a surreal turn. And that turn is that she kind of turns into a dog at night sometimes.
I mean, I kind of lost track of when it was like a dream or if she really just she is Night Bitch.
It never occurred to me it was a dream. I mean...
Well, we know a couple of times that it was.
When?
The times when she was doing it and she all of a sudden woke up like she was like, oh, it's a dream.
Oh, I thought she woke up because the night before, because then she'd go outside and she'd see evidence of, like, animals she killed overnight and whatnot.
Well, yeah, so, like, early on, a couple of them, they did that where it was a dream, but they stopped making it clear it was a dream later, and they seemed to imply more and more, like, no, this shit's really going on.
Yeah, and some of that involved her, I don't know, getting 6 extra nipples down her body and her getting patches of hair above her butt and just getting some strange physical features.
Yeah, I feel like
sharp teeth.
I feel like this was in some ways a female empowerment movie.
I mean, it definitely was about, women create life in their bodies and, are amazing creatures for doing that. That definitely was one of the undertones. So, in short, Amy Adams' character, which we don't know as a name, she is just mother.
Was literally listed as, what was it, mother, father, and son?
I think it was mother, husband, and son.
A mother, husband, and son?
Yeah, because it was about their relationship to her. So, yeah. And I think so much of it focused on the challenges of being a stay-at-home mom. And when they had their kid, who was, by the way, adorable. That boy who played their son, I just thought he was adorable.
I actually did not find him nearly as adorable as I found kids in other movies.
Oh, really? Oh, I loved him. I thought for a young actor, like, he nailed his lines. I thought he was a good little actor.
Okay, from an acting perspective, yes, he was great. The character was a living fucking terror.
Oh, I think he was probably like most kids.
Yeah, but sure, as an actor, he broke the shit he was supposed to break.
Yeah, and the movie follows Mother going through the challenges of staying at home and taking care of a young child while her husband goes out. He travels for work. He's gone for, days at a time, comes back, pops in. The kid doesn't know him very well because he's not there very much and has pretty much checked out from being the father and almost says when he has to watch the kid that he's going to babysit. And she's like, no, it's not babysitting if this is your child. So we have a disconnect between the father and the son because he's just gone so long and is just pretty much just stepped aside to let the mom take care of the son.
Yeah, and they were intentionally very vague as to what he actually did.
Yeah. So I think something worth exploring here, because I know you and I are a little bit challenged on this particular movie in that
we have no Rugrats.
Yeah, we don't have kids, and I haven't been a mom, and I haven't had a baby. So that would be the natural thing for us to talk about, is the challenges of parenting, the challenges of being mom and childbirth and raising a child and being an at-home parent. And that's not anything that we can talk about. And I kind of almost don't want to, because I don't feel like I really have a right to talk about that, because I'm sure there's other women who could talk about this firsthand, and I don't want to necessarily get anything wrong here.
Yeah, kind of the same. Like, I could pretend like I know. I could say I've seen. I could say, but the truth of the matter is you don't truly know and understand what it is to be a parent unless you have been a parent. Like, there's no amount of reading and watching which will truly prepare you for it. I know that, and as such, I like, almost out of respect,
Yeah,
don't want to
absolutely.
put myself in a what would you do situation here.
Precisely. I mean, the best I can do is say I watched Three Men and a Baby, and that's the extent of knowledge I have. So yeah, I agree with you. Definitely out of respect, and I don't want to get it wrong. So we're going to go to a different direction here in the fact that the mother's character frequently had flashbacks to her mom, and her mom disappearing, and her mom laying in the grass at night, and her mom running off into the woods. And through those flashbacks, we're led to believe that her mom was also someone who turned into a dog at night and passed it on to her. And when the movie ends, it turns out she's pregnant again. And this time she has a daughter, which kind of leaves you feeling like, oh, okay, well, now her daughter's going to grow up and have canine tendencies as well. So I thought something that might be interesting in exploring is just ancestry, because I know you have kind of fallen down an ancestry pit lately, and you think about
Lately by today.
yeah, and who you are and who you were meant to be and what gets passed on to you, because, you know, some people might pass on diabetes, and in this case, this family passed on being a dog.
But, you know, the people from there might have been neighbors of mine at one point. I think maybe so.
Possibly.
Okay, bye, Morty. Hi, Morty. Bye, Morty. Yeah. I'm gonna be honest. I got nothing. You're gonna have to run.
Well, we
run
were
with
talking
this one
about.
here.
Well, I think we were talking about ancestry and just.
Yeah,
you don't.
I get kidney stones.
Yeah, well, I mean, just ancestry in a bigger part, in the fact that we have little things that we know, and that frequently that's a small piece of the pie here. Like, she could remember instances thinking back to her mom, and it almost made sense now that she was going through this of, like, at the time she just thought her mom disappeared and whatnot, and of course, who would think my mom disappeared, so she must be turning into a dog and, you know, killing possums in the neighborhood. But in that case, when she was having these memories of growing up and then what she was going through, and then she could kind of piece it together. And I think being knowledgeable, being educated, being curious, being aware of what your family history is, it's not just important for someone to ask questions, but it's important, I think, for family members to pass on information, the good, the bad, and the ugly of, you know, this is the reality of our family. And I can share a personal experience in that my father's mother, once upon a time when I was probably in my teens or early 20s, I asked her about that side of the family's medical history, because I had chosen not to pursue a relationship with my dad, and I didn't have a lot of that. And she basically gave me there's nothing wrong with our side of the family. If there's ever anything wrong, you got it from your other side of the family. And I think that's a terrible thing to do, because we only know what information gets passed down from our family, from our ancestors. And granted, most people aren't going to have to pass down of, like, hey, just so you know, when you get older, you might turn into a dog at night.
Yeah, that might be important information to pass along. Though it is interesting, I mean, having mentioned this, and this is by no means a sponsored episode, but when you do a thing like Ancestry or 23andMe or whatever, and you start connecting in with other relatives, you can start to actually see things like DNA, and, like, you can see how people died.
Yeah.
Like, if you're like, heart attack, heart attack, heart attack, heart attack, you're like, I should maybe take care of my ticker.
Yeah.
Cancer, 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 cancer. Fuck. Yeah, I mean, you can. It's better to get first-hand accounts, but yeah, sometimes you get people like your dad's mom, who is kind of a lying bitch.
Well, it certainly wasn't
Not
helpful.
Night bitch, but just a lying bitch.
Certainly wasn't helpful, because when you don't pass on information, whether it's, hey, one day you might feel like digging a hole and killing a neighborhood squirrel because you're a dog, or hey, we have a family history of XYZ disease, so keep an eye on that because you're prone and you're disposed to that. Disclosure with information on families, I think, is so important. And obviously this can go way beyond the physical, and it can just be the fact that sometimes the people exist, and maybe, someone has a family member that they don't even know existed. Like, how many movies have you seen where all of a sudden we discover one of the characters had a child at a young age and gave them up for adoption, and then someone stumbles onto a relative they didn't have. I mean, not that you need to disclose all your dirty secrets, but
I literally learned today that I have an uncle I didn't know about. Didn't know about. My dad had an older brother that apparently my dad didn't even know about until 2020.
okay.
But yeah, it's funny you would mention that, since like literally I found an entire branch on a family tree today. Like an uncle, multiple cousins. I haven't really gone much past that yet, but yeah. And they live in California.
Well, that's actually helpful. It's interesting because on one hand, sure, not every family member or not your kids need to know every, I don't want to say mistake, because sometimes things aren't necessarily mistakes. Sometimes they were just too hard for you to handle at, whatever point in your life. But whatever indiscretion, whatever anomaly, whatever unusual circumstance happens, sure, I can understand not wanting to share everything with your kids, but I think it's really important to have conversations with your children and with your parents and get data, because I can't tell you how many times a month where I have something that I don't know. And I would ordinarily ask my mom, and I'm not able to do that anymore, and I just don't know. I just don't know, and I don't have any way to get that information. And I really hate that.
Well, I mean, again, you might, if we can.
Well, people aren't going to know information about me and my mom when, I was growing up. Or
Yeah, but
like
if you
that.
need health stuff, I mean, again,
again, not health. I'm just talking about just filling in the gaps or why things are the certain way that they are. I mean, I remember, and I'm going to get the story wrong, but I remember that there was some sort of something with my mom's mom, and they used a certain pan for meatloaf or bread or whatever, and it was always abnormal. I wish I could remember the story, and I just can't, but it was always abnormal. And the reason it is because they only had a pan that they could use, and in using that pan, it always had to be abnormal. So it wasn't like this was some, family recipe passed down from generations to generations. It was just the fact of the limitation of the cookware they had, and that's why it was like that. And obviously that's a kind of random, strange example, but it's just, I discovered a book maybe last year or the year before, and it was, what I can't remember. I got a couple of them, but kind of like, Tell Me Your Story, Mom, or, Tell Me Your Story, Dad, and finding things about your parents, asking them questions and documenting of, what was Mom and Dad's first date, or where did you meet?
Oh, I know where that book is, I think.
Well, yeah, I know. It's in my book cabinet. It's in my book cabinet.
Oh, did it? You found it and put it there?
Yeah, it's been there.
Okay.
Anyway, but I think having those conversations with your parents and collecting information, because in the case of the movie, like, she didn't know that this was something that was going to happen to her. So, she goes looking at the library for books, and she starts, researching online of why are my teeth all of a sudden sharp? And why do I have an increased sense of smell? Because she didn't know. And obviously that's not a conversation most of us are going to have of, one day you're going to grow up and be a dog. But
yeah, it turns out that the librarian was like some form of a mythical Sherpa of sorts.
Yeah, there was definitely something going on there. And I think it's important to capture family history, have conversations with parents or uncles or aunts or people who are older than you in your families, and collect that family history and pass it on, because there's nothing, I was going to say there's nothing bad that can come from it. Maybe there is. Maybe there's some sort of deep, dark secret you didn't want to know, but I think information is good to have.
Well, yeah, I mean, you do. You run deep, dark secrets. Like, I know I've told you this. I have a previous ex of mine who I am, from everything I've been able to see, I am 97% 7% certain that the person who claimed to be her aunt was actually her grandmother.
Yeah.
So,
And things like that definitely used to happen more than they probably do now. Now it's perfectly acceptable in most places to be an unwed parent or have a child out of wedlock. But it didn't always used to be like that. Or if you got pregnant at a young early age and then all of a sudden you had to pretend that this child you gave birth to was your sibling and that your mom had given birth to it. And things used to be a lot more complicated because things were so socially unacceptable. And now it's perfectly normal for a couple to have a child out of wedlock and then get married maybe 5 years later and their child is, the ring bearer or the flower girl.
yeah. I mean, for sure, yeah.
So, yeah, that's all I have on Night Bitch. Bow wow. Woof woof.
We hope you enjoyed our episode. Thank you for listening. And to catch all the new episodes, please subscribe. We release 2 to 3 episodes weekly, so we'll have new content regularly. Until next time.